Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a fascinating studio research brief titled click-whirr, the linguistic backdoors of the mind. Now, for a minute, I want you to think of the human brain not as this mysterious, squishy biological organ, but as an incredibly powerful, highly efficient operating system. And like any massively complex operating system, it's built with shortcuts so it can process huge amounts of data in a fraction of a second. But, well, here's the catch. Where there are shortcuts, there are vulnerabilities. Today, we're going to look at the exact exploits that hackers, or in this case, compliance professionals, use to completely bypass your logical firewall.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Think back to a time when you found yourself agreeing to something you absolutely positively did not want to do. Maybe you caved and bought an overpriced extended warranty, or you agreed to do this massive favor for an acquaintance, or you donated to a cause you literally knew nothing about, and you walked away thinking, why on earth did I just do that? Look, you aren't alone and you aren't weak-willed. Your mental operating system was simply triggered by a psychological shortcut. So here is our system diagnostic report for the explainer today. We are going to cover 1. The mind's hidden backdoors, 2. The word that hacks us, 3. Reciprocity and consistency exploits, 4. Social proof and authority, 5. Scarcity and liking triggers, and finally, number 6. Patching your mental system. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The mind's hidden backdoors. Biological vulnerability. To really understand our human vulnerabilities, we actually need to look at the biological evolution of these shortcuts in the animal kingdom. It starts with a concept called click-whirr, or fixed action patterns. Let me tell you this totally bizarre story about the mother turkey. So, mother turkeys are fiercely projective, right? But their maternal instinct is triggered almost entirely by one specific thing, the cheep-cheep sound of a baby chick. Researchers took a stuffed polecat, which is a turkey's natural mortal enemy, and pulled it toward a mother turkey. Naturally, she attacked it viciously. But then they put a small recorder inside that stuffed polecat, playing a cheep-cheep sound. The mother turkey didn't just stop attacking, she actually gathered her mortal enemy underneath her to keep it warm. Click, the trigger is pulled. Whirr, the automatic behavior tape plays. It's totally mechanical. Moving on to section 2, the word that hacks us, human vulnerabilities. Now, it's pretty easy to feel smug about the turkey, right? But we humans have our very own pre-programmed tapes, and they act as completely exploitable backdoors. Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer actually ran this famous experiment at a library copy machine. She wanted to test how giving a reason changes our willingness to do a favor. First, she just asked to cut in line. May I use the Xerox machine? Then she added a real, valid reason. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush? But her third test, this is the real mind bender. She asked, may I use the Xerox machine because I have to make some copies? I mean, think about that. That's not a reason. It's completely meaningless. Of course you have to make copies. Yet 94% of people let her cut in line when she used that completely meaningless because I have to make copies excuse. 94%. The success rate was virtually identical to when she had a legitimate emergency. So why does this happen? It's because the word because is the cheep-cheep sound for humans. It triggers this automatic compliance response that completely bypasses our logical filters. We rely on these shortcuts because our world is just way too complex to sit and analyze every tiny detail. Take this great anecdote from the brief about a turquoise jewelry store. The store owner had this beautiful turquoise that just would not sell. So out of total exasperation, she left a note for her employee to cut the price in half. Well, the employee misread the note and accidentally doubled the price. And the result? The jewelry sold out immediately to a bunch of vacationers. Those tourists didn't know how to properly evaluate turquoise, so they just defaulted to a mental shortcut. Expensive equals good. Click-whirr. Psychologist Robert Cialdini organized these specific vulnerabilities into what we can think of as the exploit arsenal. These are the core principles of persuasion: reciprocity, consistency, social proof, authority, liking, and scarcity. These are the exact levers that compliance professionals pull every single day to get us to say yes. Let's break down exactly how they work. Section 3. Reciprocity and consistency exploits. Social engineering hacks. These next two are some of the most deeply ingrained social engineering hacks used against our mental operating systems. First up, the reciprocity exploit. Look, human societies survive because we share this deep, unwritten obligation to repay favors. Exploiters hack this by using the benefactor before beggar strategy. The Hare Krishna Society completely mastered this back in the 1970s. They'd walk right up to a tired traveler in an airport and press a flower into their hand, absolutely refusing to take it back. They'd say, "It is our gift to you." Only after forcing this unasked for gift on the person did they ask for a donation. And it worked wonders. It literally funded a massive real estate empire. That tiny gift forces a massive sense of social debt. You just can't help but feel you owe them. Next is the consistency exploit, which is often deployed as the foot-in-the-door hack. As humans, we have this nearly obsessive desire to appear consistent with our past actions. In one famous study, researchers asked homeowners to put this massive, incredibly ugly drive carefully billboard on their front lawns. Almost everyone refused, obviously. But in a different neighborhood, they first asked homeowners to put a tiny 3-inch "Be a Safe Driver" sticker in their window. Weeks later, they went back and asked those same people to put up the massive, ugly billboard, and a staggering majority actually agreed. By making that tiny initial commitment, the homeowners had subconsciously adjusted their self-image. They now saw themselves as public-spirited citizens. The exploit traps us in our own deep need to be consistent. Section 4, Social Proof and Authority, Following the Herd. This is where we abdicate our decision-making completely. We just hand the steering wheel straight over to the herd or to the crown. Think about this for a second. Why do TV executives still use fake laugh tracks? Everyone knows they're fake. They sound completely artificial, and yet studies consistently show they make audiences laugh longer and rate the material as funnier. This is the social proof exploit. When we aren't sure what to do, we look at what others are doing. The source material compares this to the North American buffalo. Buffalo run with their heads down. If you can just get the front of the herd running toward a cliff, the rest will blindly follow the thunder of hooves, never even looking up to see the danger. Fake laughter triggers our inner buffalo. Then we have authority. We're trained practically from birth that obedience to proper authority is the right thing to do. But the exploit here is that we often react not to true authority, but to mere symbols of authority. Titles, clothing, trappings, they bypass our logic completely. The terrifying Milgram shock experiments demonstrated this perfectly. Normal, everyday people were willing to deliver what they genuinely thought were lethal electric shocks to a total stranger simply because a researcher in a gray lab coat calmly told them to continue. The symbol of the lab coat completely overrode their own moral logic. It's chilling. Section 5. Scarcity and liking triggers, desire and connection. These final exploits target our intense urge to possess rare things and our deep urge to agree with people we feel connected to. The crucial concept here is something called psychological reactance. Whenever our free choice is limited, we have a visceral, almost desperate need to retain our freedom, and that makes us desire the restricted item intensely. This actually emerges around age 2, the terrible twos, when we first start realizing our own autonomy. Hackers use scarcity to trigger this exact reactance. When a product is suddenly limited time only or only 2 left in stock, it creates real physical and emotional arousal. Your blood comes up, your focus narrows, and your brain's rational processing gets entirely jammed up. And finally, liking and association. We automatically prefer people who are attractive, people who are similar to us, or people who complement us. But the association exploit, that is even sneakier. Back in ancient times, a Persian messenger bringing news of victory was treated to feasts, but a messenger bringing bad news was slain. We naturally, artificially link the messenger to the message. This is exactly why car commercials drape beautiful models over their vehicles, or why compliance hackers constantly try to associate their products with current trends or a really good meal. They are literally hijacking your positive feelings and transferring them straight to their product. Section 6. Patching your mental system. Defend your mind. So how do we actually defend our minds against these highly calibrated social engineering attacks? Well, you can't just turn off your automatic shortcuts. If you did, you'd be totally paralyzed by the complexity of daily life. Instead, you need to use the physical signs of exploitation as your own personal alarm system. The research calls this listening to your heart-of-heart signal. It's that internal visceral sweep. You know the one. That sudden tightness in the pit of your stomach when you realize you're being trapped by consistency. Or that split-second emotional flash you feel right before your cognitive logic kicks in to justify a bad purchase. You have to learn to flag that feeling. As Dr. Robert Cialdini points out, our shortcuts are so heavily automatic that a completely unreasonable reason can manipulate us. We live in a radically complex, insanely fast-paced world, and we absolutely need our mental shortcuts just to survive it. But that also means we have to remain constantly, fiercely vigilant against those who manufacture fake triggers, the fake laugh tracks, the fake authority uniforms, the totally artificial scarcity. Well, we've reached the end of our diagnostic report today. You now know exactly where the back doors are hidden in your mind, and you know the tools that are being used to pick the locks. So the next time you feel pressured into a sudden decision, take a breath, listen to your stomach, and ask yourself this one vital question. Will you recognize the click before the whir?